I never thought that a seemingly harmless website like Reddit could be used as a tool for creepy stalkers. But that all changed when I became a victim of a stalker who had been using Reddit to hunt down unsuspecting victims like me. It all started innocently, though. I had been a regular user of Reddit for years, using it for various interests like sharing memes, discussing my favorite TV shows, and even getting advice on personal matters. Little did I know that my presence on the site would catch the eye of someone with more sinister intentions. It began with a private message from a user named Dark Ninja, who claimed to have seen some of my posts and found them interesting. I didn't think much of it and responded, thinking it was just another friendly interaction with a fellow Redditor. But as our conversations progressed, I started to feel uneasy. Dark Ninja seemed to have an unnerving obsession with me, constantly commenting on my posts and asking personal questions. At first, I tried to brush it off as harmless curiosity. But then, Dark Ninja started showing up in places I visited in real life. I would see him lurking around the corner of my street, or sitting at the table in my favorite coffee shop. I started to feel like I was being watched. Like I had a shadow following me everywhere I went. I began to suspect that Dark Ninja was not just a random user on Reddit, but someone who had intentionally seeking me out. I couldn't shake it off the feeling of being stalked, and it only intensified when I received a message from Dark Ninja on Reddit, confessing that he had been stalking me, that he was obsessed with me. I was terrified. How had this person found me? How long had he been watching me? And why was he doing this? These questions swirled in my mind as I debated whether to involve the authorities or handle it on my own. But before I could make a decision, Dark Ninja revealed that he had been using Reddit to stalk and find his victims. He shared his twisted methods with me, revealing that he would go through Reddit forums and profiles to pinpoint potential targets. He had been watching me for months, studying my posts and comments to learn more about me and how to approach me. I feel sick to my stomach. I had been so naive to have trusted a site like Reddit, thinking it was a safe place to share my thoughts and interests. But little did I know, it had become a hunting ground for this deranged stalker. Dark Ninja continued to send me messages, trying to convince me that he was just a fan who admired me. But I knew better now. I had to put an end to this before things escalated further. With shaking hands, I mustered the courage to report him to the authorities and cut off all communication with him. I thought that was the end of it, but I was wrong. Dark Ninja was not one to give up easily. He started leaving disturbing comments on my post, threatening to harm me if I didn't respond to his messages. He even went as far as to post personal information about me on Reddit, sharing my name, address, and workplace, making it clear that he knew where I lived and worked. I was living in constant fear, always looking over my shoulder, wondering if Dark Ninja was watching me. I felt like I was trapped in a never-ending nightmare, and there was no way out. But then, just when I thought things could get any worse, I received a message from a user named Reddit Savior. They claimed to have seen my post about being stalked by Dark Ninja and offered to help me. It was a glimmer of hope in the darkness that had consumed me. Reddit Savior explained that they were a part of a group on Reddit that actively searched and reported any suspicious or dangerous users. They had noticed Dark Ninja's actions and had been monitoring him for some time. They even had evidence of his previous stalking incidents and were determined to put an end to it. I was hesitant to trust another stranger from Reddit, but I had no other choice. I gave Reddit Savior all the information I had on Dark Ninja and prayed that they would be able to stop him. Days went by, and Dark Ninja seemed to have disappeared from Reddit and my life. I was cautiously hopeful that he had been caught or scared off by Reddit Savior. But then, a few weeks later, I received a message from Reddit Savior with news that made my blood run cold. They had discovered that Dark Ninja was a notorious stalker who had been using various social media platforms, including Reddit, to find and target his victims. And he wasn't alone. There was a group of stalkers working together on Reddit, using the anonymity and reach of the website to their advantage. My heart sank as I realized that I was not the only victim. This group of stalkers had been using Reddit to prey on innocent people, and I had unknowingly become a part of their twisted game. Thanks to Reddit Savior and the other members of the group, the authorities were able to track down and arrest the stalkers. It was a relief to know that they were finally off the streets, but the damage had already been done. The trauma and fear that had inflicted on the victims would stay with us forever. It made me realize that we can never be too careful with our online presence, and that there are dangerous individuals lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce on unsuspecting victims. I had been chatting with Blake on Reddit for weeks. We had bonded together our love of hiking and outdoor adventures. When he asked me out on a date, I was thrilled. I couldn't wait to finally meet him in person. We decided to meet at a small cafe in the city. As I walked towards the cafe, my heart was racing with excitement and nervousness. I took a deep breath and pushed the door. I immediately spotted Blake sitting at the small table. His face lit up as he saw me. He stood up and walked towards me, offering me a warm hug. His presence immediately put me at ease. "Hi, Ashley. It's so great to finally meet you," he said with a smile. "Hi, Blake. It's finally to meet you too," I replied, feeling my cheeks flushed with a hint of excitement. We sat down and ordered our drinks, talking and laughing like we had known each other for years. As we chatted, I couldn't help but notice how handsome Blake was. His jet black hair was perfectly styled and his deep blue eyes were memorizing. As the evening went on, I found myself falling for Blake. He was charming, funny, and had a passion for life that was contagious. I couldn't believe that we only just met. It felt like we had known each other for a lifetime. Before we knew it, it was time to leave the cafe. Blake offered to walk me to my car, and I happily accepted it. As we strolled down the bursting streets, I couldn't help but feel a connection with him. "Hey, do you want to take a walk in the park nearby?" Blake asked, pointing towards a park that was just a block away. "Sure, that sounds lovely," I replied, smiling. We walked through the park, enjoying the warm night air and the sound of crickets chirping. As we walked, I noticed that there weren't many people around. I didn't think much of it, assuming it was because it was the weeknight. Blake grabbed my hand and pulled me towards a secluded area of the park. I felt a panic arise within me. "Blake? What's going on?" "I'm sorry, Ashley. I have to do this." Before I could react, Blake pushed me into the nearby van. I screamed and tried to fight back, but he was too strong. He quickly tied my hands and feet with ropes, gagging me with a cloth. As the van drove off, I had no idea where he was taking me. Panic and fear were consuming me, and I couldn't believe what was happening. The man I thought was my perfect match was now my kidnapper. I lost track of time as I had taken to a remote cabin in the mountains. I was only kept in a room with no windows, and Blake would only show up to bring me meals and water. He refused to tell me why he had taken me or what he wanted from me. I spent my days trying to come up with a plan to escape, but each time I tried, I was caught and punished. Blake had become a completely different person from the man I had met on Reddit. He was controlling, aggressive, and had a darkness in his eyes that terrified me. One day, while Blake was out getting supplies, I managed to free my hands from the ropes. I searched the room for anything that could help me escape. I found a rusty pair of scissors and a piece of metal that I used to pick the lock on the door. I cautiously made my way out of the room, my heart pounding with adrenaline. I crept towards the front door, trying to make as little noise as possible. Just as I was opening the door, I heard Blake's voice behind me. "Where do you think you're going, Ashley?" he sneered. I turned around to see him standing in the doorway, a menacing look on his face. I knew I had to act fast. With all the strength I could muster, I lunged towards him and managed to push him out of the way. I ran as fast as I could towards the woods, not looking back. I could hear Blake's angry shouts behind me as I ran deeper in the woods. I stumbled upon a nearby stream and quickly waded through it to camouflage my scent. I kept running, my feet feeling like they were going to give out at any moment. As I ran, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned and saw Blake chasing after me, fueled by anger and desperation. I ran faster, knowing that my only chance of survival was to escape him. I didn't stop until I came across a clearing. I looked around frantically, trying to find a place to hide. That's when I saw a small cave hidden behind the cluster of rocks. It was my only chance. I quickly made my way towards the cave, ducking behind the rocks to avoid being seen by Blake. As I entered the cave and turned to block the entrance with rocks, I heard Blake's voice on the other side. "Come on, Ashley. There is no point in hiding," he said in a menacing tone. But I didn't move. I waited until I was sure Blake had given up, and then I carefully made my way out of the cave. I knew I couldn't stay there forever, so I started walking towards the nearest town, hoping to find help. After hours of walking, I finally came across a gas station. I went inside and asked to use the phone to call the police. As I was waiting for them to arrive, I couldn't stop shaking and crying. I was grateful to be alive, but I couldn't shake off the memories of being kidnapped by someone I trusted. The police arrived, and I told them everything that had happened. They searched the area and eventually found the remote cabin in the mountains. Blake was arrested and charged with kidnapping and assault. Although my first day with Blake had turned into a terrifying nightmare, I was grateful for the strength and resilience I had found within myself. I realized that I could handle anything that came my way, and I would never let anyone take away my freedom again. After that experience, I had a newfound appreciation for Reddit and the dangerous side of online dating. I promised to myself to always be cautious and never let my guard down like I had with Blake. But most importantly, I promised myself to never let anyone take away my sense of self and my ability to fight for my life. I had always found myself drawn to creepy things in life, spending countless hours scrolling through Reddit threads and forums, searching for the next chilling tale or paragraph. So when I came across a subreddit with no members, my curiosity was immediately piqued. The subreddit was titled r/planned accidents, and clicking on it revealed a single post. It was a crime scene photograph taken from a bird's eye view, showing the gory scene with blood splattered everywhere. The caption simply read, "The first victim," followed by the date and time. I couldn't help but feel a chill run down my spine as I stared at the image, the eerie stillness of the room and the gruesome details captured in the paragraph leaving me unsettled. I scrolled through the rest of the subreddit, finding more posts with similar paragraphs, each one showing a different crime scene. I was amazed by the level of detail and the unsettling atmosphere captured in each image. It was like I was there, witnessing the aftermath of those horrific scenes. But as I continued to scroll, a nagging feeling of unease began to grow within me. There was something off about these photographs, something that didn't sit right with me. It took me a moment to put my finger on it, but then it hit me. There were no bodies in any of the pictures. I clicked on the first post again and studied the image more closely. The bloodstains on the floor and walls were real, that much was clear. But where were the bodies? Had they been removed before the photograph was taken? It seemed likely, considering the level of detail in the pictures and the fact that they were all taken at different dates and times. Feeling a sense of unease settling in my stomach, I decided to do some research on the dates and times listed in the post. As it turned out, each one coincided with real-life crime that had gone unsolved. I couldn't believe it. It seemed that the person who created this subreddit was actually documenting real crimes. My mind raced with questions. Who was behind this subreddit? And more importantly, why were they posting these photographs and clues on Reddit? I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something sinister and twisted at play here. With a growing sense of unease, I delved deeper into this subreddit, scouring through the posts and comments for any clues or leads. But there was nothing. No names or hints about the creator of the subreddit. It was as if the person was a ghost, haunting the forums with a disturbing content. But I couldn't let it go. I became obsessed with the subreddit, constantly refreshing the page in hopes of finding new posts. The photographs and clues became more and more intricate, leading me down a dark and twisted rabbit hole. I was so consumed by my investigation that I barely noticed the passing of time. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself neglecting my daily life and responsibilities in favor of unraveling the mystery behind the planned accidents subreddit. Then one day, I stumbled upon a new post. A photograph of a dark alley with a single figure standing in the shadows. The caption read, "Next victim." My heart raced as I recognized the alley as one of my own city. Had this person been committing crimes right under my nose all this time? Determined to find out more, I reached out to the authorities with my findings. But to my horror, they brushed me off, claiming that my theories were nothing but the ramblings of a conspiracy theorist. I was frustrated and angry. How could they not see the connections? Feeling hopeless and alone, I continued to monitor the subreddit, desperate for any new developments. And that's when I saw it. A new post with familiar scene. It was another crime scene photograph, but this time there was a body. It was clear that this was the work of the person behind the subreddit, and I knew I had to act fast. After some more digging, I finally found an IP address linked to the subreddit. Without hesitation, I contacted the authorities again, providing them with crucial piece of information that would lead them to the person responsible for these heinous crimes. The next few days were a blur, as the authorities swarmed the location linked to the IP address and made an arrest. And as the details of the case were revealed, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The person behind the planned accident subreddit was a middle-aged man living a seemingly ordinary life with his wife and kids. But he had a dark secret. He was a serial killer. And the subreddit was his way of documenting his crimes and taunting the authorities. The missing bodies from the photographs were found in various locations, and it became clear that this man had been committing these crimes for years, using Reddit as his twisted outlet. I was sickened by the realization that I had been unknowingly aiding his sick game by obsessing over his subreddit. But amidst the horror and shock, there was also a sense of satisfaction. I had unknowingly stumbled upon a real-life mystery and helped bring a killer to justice. And although I couldn't shake the feeling of guilt for being so involved with the case, I also couldn't help but feel a sense of pride using my passion for the strange and macabre to make the positive impact. As the subreddit was shut down and the man was convicted, I vowed to be more mindful of the content I consume online. I had learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes, the things that fascinates us the most can also be the most dangerous. And it's important to always trust our instincts and question the things we encounter, no matter how intriguing or captivating they may seem. I was scrolling through my Reddit feed when I saw a post that caught my attention. It was a giveaway for the newest iPhone, and all I had to do to enter was to provide my address in the comments. As someone who has always been a fan of Apple products, I couldn't resist the opportunity to possibly win the newest addition to their collection. Without much thought, I quickly typed in my address and clicked submit. I didn't think of anything of it, assuming that the person hosting the giveaway would just randomly select a winner from the comments. Little did I know, my decision to enter would lead to a nightmare I could never have imagined. A few days passed, and I had completely forgotten about the giveaway. That was until I received a strange package in the mail. It had no return address, and inside was a photo of the front of my house. Confused and slightly unnerved, I brushed it off as some weird prank and went about my day. But then, it started happening regularly. Every few days, I would receive another package with a photo of my house, but this time, it was from a different angle. It wasn't just the outside of my house either. These photos were getting closer and closer to my windows. I started feeling uneasy and decided to delete the Reddit post just in case it was somehow related. But the photos kept coming, each one getting more and more intrusive. One day, I received a photo of my living room with my TV clearly visible. Another day, it was a photo of my backyard where my kids often played. I couldn't shake off the feeling that someone was watching me, gathering information about my life from a distance. I started getting paranoid, constantly checking my windows and locking my doors. I even considered going to the police, but what could I tell them? That I entered a giveaway on Reddit and now I'm being stalked? It sounded ridiculous even to me. But then, I received a photo that shook me to my core. It was a detailed shot of my bedroom with my clothes scattered on the floor and my personal belongings on display. How did this person even get into my house? I immediately called the police and they took the situation seriously, sending officers to investigate. They found evidence that someone had been inside my house, going through my things and taking photos. My worst fears were confirmed when they showed me a printout of my Reddit's post with all the addresses that were submitted in the comments section. I was not the only victim. There were over 100 addresses in that list. Feeling violated and angry, I started to dig deeper into the Reddit post. I wanted to find out who these people were and how they were able to gain access to my home. It didn't take long for me to find the original poster, a user with the name Giveaway Guru. I clicked on their profile and my blood ran cold when I saw that they had no other posts or comments. It was like they created their account just to host this giveaway. I couldn't believe it. This person had lured us all in the promise of a prize and then used our addresses to invade our privacy and stalk us. I contacted the police with all the information I had gathered, and they were able to track down this person behind Giveaway Guru. It turned out to be a young man who had a history of cyberstalking and had been banned from several social media platforms. He had used a fake address to receive the packages with the photos, making it almost impossible to trace him. But now that he was caught, he had no choice but to confess. He explained that he had a fascination with people's lives and wanted to see how they lived through their windows and belongings. He had come up with the idea for the giveaway as a way to get access to multiple addresses without raising suspicion. As he was taken away by the police, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. On one hand, I was relieved that it was all over and he was off the streets. But on the other hand, I was still haunted by the fact that he had been inside my house, seeing things that only my family and I should have access to. The police advised us all to change our locks and more cautious with our personal information online. They also warned us to be aware of any suspicious activities or packages being delivered to our homes. It was a wake-up call for me, a reminder that not everyone online is who they claim to be. I couldn't help but feel guilty for not being more careful and falling for such a dangerous trap. But I couldn't shake off the anger towards the person who had violated my privacy and the privacy of so many others. I may have lost trust in the safety of my home, but I gained a valuable lesson about the dangers of the internet and the importance of protecting our personal information. From now on, I will think twice before entering a giveaway or giving out my address online. It's a small price to pay for the safety and security of my family and myself.